Welcome back to our Adventure Expert series, where we invite you to sit down with us as we discuss travel, adventure and alternative living with people who are actually living this lifestyle.
Guys, these videos are going to be in longer formats, and it's just designed for you to sit with us and listen to our stories and advice from life on the road. It's also available in podcasts too, so go check that out.
Yes, this is actually a two-part conversation with Aidan Klimenko. The first part we discussed crossing borders and how we deal with police, corruption and bribes and all of that jazz. In this part we'll be discussing Bandits, basically thieves, and how we stayed safe whilst living in our van on the streets.
Yeah, Aidan's got some awesome stories. So guys, please feel free to leave us comments and stories and advice from your experiences, because we really want to share with everybody.
Yes, the idea of this series is that the community can learn and share and grow. And so if you have lived in your van and you have tips and advice, please jump down into the comments and share some of that so that we can learn and everyone else can learn. And if other people have questions that you can answer, please get down there and enjoy the stories.
Enjoy.
Okay, so in the first part of our conversation, we discussed crossing borders in foreign countries and also some of the troubles that you can run into with the boys in blue, the police, the army and the military, and the various roadblocks along the way. I think probably though, the most scary prospect is running into banditos. Basically people that want to do you harm or rob you on the way. Did you have any kind of fears before you left the US?
I think that it's good to always, be wary and have your guard, up. But yeah, I think that we'd heard a lot about, especially Mexico. In the United States, we have this we're really scared of Mexico. We have this idea that everything is just bad, and I don't know. And Mexico was tough, especially being our first crossing over. It was the first, our first steps into Latin America. And so we were nervous about that, but I think that it all kind of went away really quickly. I think that it's really important to have your wits about you and go into situations with a good head on your shoulders and not being dumb about, where you are. And
That goes with every country you go to. Like, everyone thinks that South America is worse than most countries, but I think with any countries you're going to find trouble if you're not careful, if you're not aware of your surroundings.
I tell you, one of the issues with doing van life or overlanding through foreign countries or any country is, they've all been foreign to me so far. I haven't actually done it in my own country, but the trouble is that you're always outside, you're always vulnerable, and the more your rig looks flamboyant and flashy and covered with all these gadgets that they don't get on their standard vehicles, the more attracted people could be to steal things from you.
Yeah, when people realise that it's your home, that your possessions are in the van.
We were worried about that for the most part, and we definitely never we didn't really ever clean the van or anything like that, because we figured why draw attention to it, unnecessary attention. Yeah. But at first I thought that we were going to be okay because we were in an old car, but after after it was all built for the adventure and stuff, it stuck out like a sore thumb. It was obviously, it drew a lot of attention no matter what, whether it was dirty, whether it wasn't, whether it was clean or whatever, it drew a lot of attention. And
could have been the four gringos that were driving it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that at some point it's unavoidable. It's at the end of the day, you are going to be out there and exposed, and it's going to be hard to blend in, and just understanding that is before going into it, I think, is important.
So what did you both of you do to your van to prepare it, like security and all that? Is there any things that you did that would make it easier for?
We had some spots in the van that we could hide stuff that was at least enough hidden that somebody breaking in and trying to grab whatever they saw as quickly as they can wouldn't find, our laptops or cameras and stuff like that. I think obviously
you had a lot of equipment.
We had a lot of equipment, a lot of equipment. And when it comes down to it, these vans aren't, the most secure things in the world. We don't have modern security systems or whatever. And so it's definitely something that we were always nervous about. We were always nervous about leaving the van for long periods of time anywhere, unattended. Really careful about that. But at the same time too, we lived in the van, so there wouldn't be that many times when we'd be away from it for long periods of times to worry about. There were a few times in Belize we went and spent a night on an island somebody invited us out to, and So we left it at the beach, and that's always a little nerve-wracking, you know, but you're going to have to leave it sometimes, you know, like if you're bound to your van the whole time, then that's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I do think that you need to leave it as little as possible. I don't like leaving my van, but sometimes it's unavoidable because you cut yourself off from some of the experiences. Like I did the same thing in Belize. I parked up and went to one
same island, Willows Island.
You went to Willows Island? High five.
Because you, I remember, it was at
That's
Hopkins
cool.
Beach, and we were chilling on Hopkins and like made friends with this dude who owned this little restaurant on the beach, and he let us park next to his, you know, thing, and we kicked it there. And then I remember watching your episode about going to Willows Island, and then I was like in the van, and Joel and Parker came over, and they're like, "Yo, we just met this girl who owns this island," and I was like,
Willow.
And we talked about you with Willow.
That's cool. That's a cool little situation. Anyone listening going to Belize, look up the Island Project.
She's not there anymore.
I wonder if it's still
I've been
around.
there too.
She's been there too.
Yeah, Leah's been there
But
too.
she's not there anymore. She's rented it out to
wondering
two German couples that are looking after it.
She was trying to make it into like a hostel and stuff.
Airbnb and hostel.
Yeah, at one point, but
Still worthwhile getting out to the Key.
It was a
the
tiny island.
Keys.
the Keys.
The
I don't know.
Belizean Keys.
Okay, Belizean Keys. Yeah.
Yeah. Still worth getting out there, even if you don't go and see Willows Island.
But back to, so anyway, what have we done to our vans? You know, like for security stuff. And I don't know. I tinted my windows. I think that was a big thing for just first and foremost making it harder to look into the windows.
That is a good place to start it, because most of these crimes that are committed are opportunistic.
Exactly.
You walk
They
past,
see
they see
something
something
and-
and they
yep.
grab it.
Yeah.
And if you cut out them seeing that, that's a really good idea.
And then I think really the most important thing is to just be conscious of where you are. You know, every country's going to have places that are okay, and every country's going to have places that aren't okay. And knowing whether you're in a place that is okay or not okay is a big thing. At one point, we were in Panama, getting our paperwork ready for crossing over the gap. Luckily, we timed it right with the ferry, like one of the 2 months that it was ever running or whatever. So we got across the ferry, but still had to do some paperwork, and so I left the van with Joel and Parker while Madison and I went over, across the highway to do our paperwork at the police station. And they were parked in kind of a sketchy neighborhood, but there was two of them in the van. They had the door open like this, and they were both working on their laptops. And someone jumped in the van and tried to rip the laptop out of Joel's hand.
What?
And I don't think he realized there was two people in the van, because they said that he was kind of surprised, but then they wrestled with them. They actually broke our laptop screen, which was really inconvenient because we were doing all of our work on this laptop. Sorry. And so it really slowed everything down, but they wrestled with him, and he ran away, and they just, he only got away with having broken our laptop screen and ripping, Joel and Parker's pants.
It seems like it'd be pretty rare for somebody to try and steal something off you while you were in there.
Yeah, exactly, and that was they knew they were in kind of a sketchy place. Like, it was obvious, but they thought that because they were in there, it was okay. And it was so hot. Like, I can't blame them for having the door open. It was incredibly hot, and in the middle of the day in the sun,
at all.
And so, that's just stuff is gonna happen. You're gonna. I personally, in all my travels through Latin America over the years, have never had. Well, I've had one encounter with somebody face to face who tried to rob me, but he was really drunk and just kind of belligerent, and it really didn't end up being all that threatening of a situation. And so I've been lucky, but you hear about these stories, and I think that you just got to understand that it might not happen, it might happen. That's part of the territory. But at the very least, you're going to be taken advantage of at some point. You're going to lose money to something or someone, and that really sucks. That's a really hard thing to have happen. But the important thing is to not let that completely taint your view or your perception of where you are. And it's really easy to. It's really easy to have something really shitty happen and be like, fuck this place. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Or a string of things happen, and that's really tough because there's good people everywhere. And if you can't trust people when you travel, then you're gonna have a miserable time. If you can allow yourself to find that balance between trusting and being wary, then you'll have a great time. But that's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. And a lot of people that are going to be thinking about doing van life in Latin America, like doing the coast and doing a lot of surf trips, we get a lot of questions all the time about what you do with your car and your vehicle while you're
surfing. It's tough.
And also, how do you protect like what's on the roof of your car, like the surfboards, and like how do you? Because you have.
Okay, so yeah, I mean we've taken that pretty seriously, because pretty much anything hanging up on the vehicle in certain countries, if you're away from it, they'll take it. If you're looking the other way from it, they'll take it. I've had people take like my wetsuit whilst it's been hanging up right next to me. I've had, you know, all sorts of stuff. Surfboards stolen out of the shadows. As soon as it gets dark, people creeping up in the shadows where they can't be seen to take the surfboards out that are just a little bit out of sight. So you've got to keep everything near. Like number one, like keep it out of sight and keep everything near.
It's tiring. It's tiring to have to think about that all the time, you know, but you do, because we live outside, you know, like this lifestyle, like we were saying, you're so exposed so much of the time, and your stuff, while you try and keep it in the van, obviously is going to be outside of the van too, and having to always think about that stuff. Flip-flops was us. We'd go through so many pairs of flip-flops because we'd keep them outside of the van sometimes, underneath the van, and wake up and they'd just be gone. And our camp chairs. So when I in Colombia and Cartagena, someone had taken one of our camp chairs and flip-flops. Camp chairs we usually would put back up, but flip-flops would always be under the van, and people would always take them. Someone took our... the only other thing that someone took from us was our trasharoo, which is it's kind of like a big backpack that goes on your spare tire, and you put all your trash in it. It holds those big black plastic trash bags. You can put all your trash in it, which is great because you don't have it inside the van, and especially with 4 people in the van, we would generate a lot of trash, and someone stole that. At the end of the trip, I think we'd always find it unclipped and open, because a ton of people would go in looking to see what it was and realize it's just trash and then lose interest, you know? And one person in Guayaquil, Ecuador, at the end, like our last 2 days in South America, finally got it. But we didn't realize it until a few weeks later. What happened to the trash?
Yeah, it takes a while.
I was looking at pictures and I was like, wait a minute.
We had a trash
room's gone. Yeah.
So it's going to be things on top of your car, like solar panels, like you.
Yeah, well, see, our solar panels are installed with special screws that you wouldn't have in a Swiss Army knife or something.
Light bars, solar panels, expensive gear that you have on the outside of your van, you'd want to probably secure down for sure.
And don't look at getting those kind of security screws in Latin America, because you're lucky if you can get nuts and bolts sometimes. Yeah. Like do that kind of thing, or arrange to have it done. If anyone's thinking about doing the trip that we did and going to South America and driving north, you got to realise it's a lot harder to equip for things like that. Right. You have to order that in. But it's a really good tip. You were asking about roof security. So, you know, for the most part, we back in South America, we built 2 huge boxes, which turned out to be a mistake because they were too heavy and caused the Kombi to burn a few motors. But we built those for security so that we could keep our stuff locked up when we were away from the van. Then when we got rid of that, we put surfboards up. We built a frame out of metal. It was really crap, but it did the job. It was able to be locked with a padlock, so the surfboards couldn't be stolen. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have had the surfboards. And then when we got to the US, we picked up Thule as a sponsor, so they gave us a huge, properly designed, properly secure roof box, which is now the most secure location on the van, because you can't take that thing off unless you take the whole roof rack off, which they would do if they had enough time.
We had locks on our the roof, the connection point between the roof rack and the top.
You're kidding?
Yeah, we had locks.
So you couldn't take your roof rack off?
So you couldn't. So
That's
couldn't
genius.
It's great, definitely. But
who does that?
Yakima.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure. I would imagine Thule does too. But
hey, Thule.
Yeah. When we were in Latin America, everybody thought our rooftop, our cargo box was a boat. Everybody, every single person was like, "Traveling with a boat, huh?"
Where are you going in your boat?
And every time we got stopped, the border people would be like, "It's in the boat."
That's funny.
It's really funny. I wanted to put a rudder on the back.
Yeah, we have for the surfboards now as well. We have the Thule straps, which are lockable. So it's looks like a regular kind of ratchet strap, or just I don't know cargo strap, but it has a metal line running through it, so you can't cut it with just scissors or a knife. You need some wire cutters.
Right.
So it's just delaying the stealing, the theft
exactly.
process.
At the end of the day, if they want to get in, you know, and they have time to get in, they'll get in.
They will.
You know, but if you don't give them that time or don't make it so obvious, then you can deter that, you know.
I think it's key to have hidden places for your important items. We have a hidden location where we keep stuff like passports and you know, money. Like if we take out a bunch of money one time or whatever across a border,
Right.
You know, because they're not likely to find those things if they were to get in and steal things. Because you can literally have your dirty underwear stolen if someone breaks into your car if you're not there. If they have enough time, and that, you know, often you'll park it up, and they'll. It happened to a couple of ours that was traveling in another Kombi, Swiss couple in Bolivia. They just watched them leave to go to the market for breakfast. One person stayed with the van and watched them, and the other.
Who is it? The Swiss couple.
They don't have a social profile or anything. They're just low key.
Okay. Yeah.
But cool people, and yeah, they had all of their stuff stolen, from the dirty underwear to like spare glasses, and they didn't have I think they had a camera stolen. Most people travel with a camera or a laptop, and when you look into a van and you see that it's a house, you think there's going to be at least a camera in there.
You know, I before going down, I intended to bring down. I thought that saving old credit cards would be good to have. Old IDs would be good. If that situation I was in with the with the cop who took my ID, had I passed him an old expired ID, then I wouldn't worry about it. I could just leave.
A lot of people do travel with a dummy wallet.
Dummy wallet. And then also, I think it would be a good one. A good one would be to have you can go to. I worked at a camera store, and so I would just see the amount of broken cameras that come in. Get a broken camera. I mean, everybody breaks cameras. You know, instead of throwing it away, keep a little broken camera. Don't leave it out in your van, but leave it in kind of like in your glove compartment or something like that, so that when you do get robbed, and I'm saying when you get robbed, not if you get robbed, but when you get robbed, they maybe will find that before they find your other stuff and be cool with that, and you know feel good to have found something and be out of there. You know.
Yeah, definitely good to have
give them
dummies.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We never did do that. That was dumb of us, but. Should have.
Yeah.
Been a good idea.
It's always.
Well, the only time you've been robbed really is when you got the computer.
I've been robbed every single time I've been down to Latin America.
In your car? From your car?
Every time has been either out of my hostel, out of my backpack, on a bus, not face-to-face encounters, but every single time.
But what about from your van? Like
when we went down to South America in Costa Rica, our first night in Costa Rica, and this was hard for us because it was really easy. It was really easy for us to just have this like really negative idea of Costa Rica because it was raining the whole time we were there, and our first night we got robbed, and it was more of kind of like getting taken advantage of situation, which ended up being kind of shitty, but like at the end of the day, the guy got away with my wallet, which had about $100 cash in it because we had just come across the border and I'd just changed money, and Madison's broken iPhone, which she was sleeping, and we were sleeping with our door open, which I think a lot of people would say is dumb, but when you are in Latin America on the coast. With 4 people in a van that has no fans or anything, it gets really, really hot. Yeah, really Air is hot. Still, it's really humid. We'd have the trunk open and the side door open. We did have a screen door because there are a lot of bugs. So we had a little screen here, and we figured that because our heads were right here, if someone tried to get in, we would hear them. What we didn't realize is at that point we'd gotten so used to having 4 people in the van and hearing people get in and out throughout the night for using the bathroom and stuff that we just wouldn't wake up to any noises. And this guy unclipped Madison's iPhone from her headphones that she had in her ear and then reached into a backpack that was pretty close, which was dumb to have it that close to the door. But I think that after a period of time, somewhere you start to feel a little secure, you start to feel safe, and it's easy to like loosen up and slip up a little bit, you know? You can't get down on yourself for that because that will happen. Joel's passport was missing, but I found it in the bushes, which was interesting because passports hold value, you know. But I think that this guy, we actually asked around at the beach that we were at, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was Jimmy. You know, he's the beach thief. You know, he stole your stuff. His dad lives right over there." So we went to his dad's house, and like he's like, "Oh my goddamn son, you know, like I'm so sorry." And it was really sad, but like.
Did you get your stuff back?
No, I didn't get the stuff back, but I think that he has been doing it so much at that place that he didn't want to involve authorities and knew that if he steals a passport, then all of a sudden it becomes much more than just like a stolen wallet, and then it becomes a thing, and then so we got the passport, but I lost my cards and stuff, but you know that was partly on us for feeling comfortable enough to.
You do get complacent, I guess is the word, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's that finding that balance of being open but not, you know, too open, reserved but not too reserved to the point that you aren't enjoying where you are.
Yeah.
You know?
We definitely had people put their hands in the vehicles, try the doors in the night. Yeah. I had a guy try to steal a battery whilst I was sleeping, and obviously in the bus my head's above the battery, so I just woke up with the sound of the engine going and it makes a noise. You can't really sleep through that. This taxi, I kind of woke up when the taxi pulled in, but I heard this taxi pull behind and I was snoozing, and then like a few guys got out, and then I was like, the door opened, and I was like, what? And I jumped out of bed just in my boxer shorts and just like ran around the back. I was, ¿Qué estás haciendo? Really loud in his ear, like, what are you doing? And he's like, no, and jumped in the taxi. And it wasn't until afterwards that I realised that, hey, there was like 5 of those guys. You know, like if I hadn't like got the element of surprise on them, they didn't expect someone to be sleeping in a bus. You know, but I don't keep my engine locked in the bus, and I can, and I used to, but I don't, because if there's a fire, I don't want to be looking for the key for the engine.
What would they steal back there though?
There's 2 batteries.
Oh, your batteries, right?
Yeah, and in Mexico there's a lot of Volkswagen engines. So to the beach.
We'll be there shortly.
Well, that's another good point, Trey, because you didn't mention that you had the machete with you to scare them off in your underwear.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people would feel safer having stuff like pepper spray in their car. And
do you want to, Leah, you know, when we first got to the States, you were there, like we're talking about Latin America, like personally, I felt less safe arriving in the USA.
That's what I was telling Aidan just before. Yeah, I felt a lot safer in Mexico than I did when I crossed over to San Diego, and we had a lot more trouble with people there than we did in Mexico.
You remember that guy?
Yeah. Yep.
In the United States.
Tell the story better.
Oh no, yeah, tell it.
No, so this is on you, Leah. I want to know. Tell the guys about the guy.
Well, we were parked up in a suburban street next to Ocean Beach, and it was nighttime. We were brushing our teeth, and a guy, you walked off to take Alaska for a walk. Abandoned me alone. And a guy came up and he seemed really out of it. Obviously, he was on drugs, homeless, and he was just being quite. How would you describe him? Because he wasn't being threatening, but he was being very like
aggressive.
No, it was like passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive, yeah. Like he wouldn't leave you. Like he was getting quite close to us. He kind of didn't say anything. He was just staring at me and
creepy.
Just being creepy, yeah. And I thought, like, okay, is he going to steal something, or is he just going to? I don't know. And you actually approached him, and he was being quite.
Yeah, I was aware of this out the corner of my eye. Like as I was crossing the road, abandoning Leah, I was aware that there was this guy there, and I was kind of hung back to see: is he passing? Is he seem friendly? And he just seemed odd. He was just standing by the tree, like a few yards away from the door, just staring. And it was dark, and we're on the streets, you know. And like we were like, so I went back and said, "Hey man, how you doing?" Like engage him in conversation, see if he's okay. He was a bit odd though, right? He was,
because you don't really see like that behaviour in Latin America, like people on drugs, like completely fucking out of it on drugs. It's true. Also in America, like the gun culture is a lot more. Like I don't know, did you experience anyone that just in Latin America people don't just carry around guns?
You do see a lot of guns, and there are a lot of guns in like El Salvador, Guatemala, and some countries, but. I think I'm more aware of the gun culture because it hits the news a lot more, or at least I see it on the news in the US. And so I was thinking, normally I would go up to somebody and I feel fairly confident because I've had to do it before, whip out the machete and go crazy. Like I would never hurt anybody, but just look like I have.
But in the US, they could have a gun on them and just like.
And that's exactly what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until that moment that I first felt vulnerable on the trip. Up until that point, I at least felt like if I'm by my car, I've got my machete, I can chase them home.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's touching on what we were saying earlier about the fact that each country's going to have,
of course,
a set of good and a set of bad.
Yeah,
you know,
no matter
and
where you go.
That's going to be everywhere. You know, and. In the United States, it's much more so because it's such a large country, you know, like there's just more opportunity for a whole lot more of, you know, the bad stuff, which,
There's
really
definitely there's a big division in class and somewhat of a drug problem on the streets of the US, which isn't prevalent on the streets of Latin America, which is interesting. We weren't expecting it. And I think it's good that you brought up the fact that security is not just a Latin America-based concern. When you're living in a van, you're on the streets of wherever you are. So you have to have your wits about you, not, like judging your environment. I drove into Peru one time. We were in search of a wave that was at the end of this 60-kilometer dirt track, and we just ran out of gas when we got there. And the lady at the restaurant sold us just enough gas to get us stuck at the end of the road and not back again. But the end of the road was this village that was in the book, our surf guide book, that said, do not stop here, worst place on earth, super dangerous. You know, it was just like completely avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
And as we rolled into town looking for gas, like people just started coming out of their houses and following us. And, you know, they were like, everybody was staring at us and not in a good way, you know, and it was dark and we were in this town that we knew that was dangerous. The gas attendant wouldn't give us any gas. And then we ended up going to the police station and saying, we need gas to get out of here and we feel unsafe. Can you help us? Yeah. And like we ended up sleeping in the police station actually overnight.
That's a really good. We did that too sometimes. Knowing Red Cross and police stations are generally places that you can sleep. If you roll into a city, we would really make a point to try and get to wherever we were camping before it got dark. It just made it a lot easier to find camp spots, you know, because we would be camping in fields and in soccer fields or people's, you know, properties or whatever, side of the roads, pullouts, you know, stuff like that. We really avoided cities because there were 4 of us. So we had to have our pop top popped all the time, and when the pop top was popped, it's really obvious that we were in there. So we avoided cities and camped outside in, like, you know, the country and stuff. But I think that
the police, like you were saying, that the police are like a really, you can rely on them as a safe place.
Right. It's like, you know, if sometimes you are inevitably going to get into a town at night. You know, and sometimes that town's not going to be. Sometimes it's hard to know what that town's going to be like because you don't know anything about it. Or you don't know how far you're going to make it, and you just end up where you end up, you know. And if it feels like an unsafe place, generally the police station is, you know, a pretty good spot to go to. They'll I think, always let you stay.
Oh yeah, I've had the police come up to me and wake me up in my van, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go, they're going to ask me to move on. And they've just said, dude, you're in a bad barrio.
Right, totally.
Like, come with me, and you can park outside the station till the morning. And you're like, wow.
Yeah, totally.
I have had like 2 interesting situations when that happened. It happened a bunch of times, but once was because the policeman shot a guy right outside the Kombi on our first day of the trip in Argentina. Yeah, that was a big shock, and we didn't really know if we could trust the police because it didn't look like the police should have shot the guy. It was really like dodgy. But we ended up sleeping in the police station. And once in Colombia when we first arrived, and they took us to one police station, one of 2 in town, and the other one got a car bomb set off outside it.
Wow. Holy
so
shit.
like, if 50-50 chance, we could have been parked up next to that.
Damn.
But I mean, like, that is exception to the rule, right? Like, the police station is a good place to go. I tell you, another good place to go if you're really concerned and you're not sure about where you are is a pharmacy, a 24-hour pharmacy.
Oh, that's a good call.
Any place that's like got, a couple of German lesbians that I met in Bolivia told me that one.
Yeah, that's a good call.
They were like, hey, if we're not sure about the town, we'll park at the 24-hour pharmacy because we prefer people to be coming past than be stuck in a quiet, like, place where people can see that they could get away with committing
a lot of the places, pharmacies or 24-hour pharmacies will have like armed guards. Too.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
So you can get to watch a firefight.
We stayed at a police station in Nicaragua, I think. We were just coming in, it was super late, and I can't remember where we were, but the police were funny. We made them a spaghetti dinner and drank rum with them, and they wanted our gas from our gas tanks. We were like, no, motherfuckers, that's our gas. You know, we'll give you some rum and food. But no.
Can't blame them for trying.
Yeah, exactly. They were pretty funny.
Yeah,
So,
go on.
No, just saying, like we've been talking about like a lot of bad situations that can happen, but generally, like the whole time that you've been, like for however many years, and it's been very rare to come across like.
There's so many awesome people everywhere. So many helpful people, and like. Yeah, totally. It's really easy to focus on all the bad stuff because that stuff really sticks out in your mind a lot of the times, as it should, you know.
And we talk about them so people can learn, and so you know what's the best way to get out of it or how to deal with those situations.
Yeah, I think like the takeaway thing about the banditos should be, yes, you have to be aware. No, it shouldn't put you off.
Right.
You know, as much crime can happen in your hometown. There's probably more murders in Chicago than there is in half of the places that I visited, apart from the murder capital of the world in Honduras, which I hitchhiked through. And was not advisable. But, you know, like that shouldn't put you off. There are measures that you can take to prevent the, you know, like...
You should always research beforehand anyways the countries that you go to, no matter where you go. Just so you know.
I think going into the situation knowing that you can be as prepared as ever, but no matter what, things are going to be out of your control, and to allow yourself to let go of some of that control a little bit is really healthy, and to just know that there's good people everywhere, and that despite situations being shitty sometimes, there's a whole lot out there that is worth that, that price.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would go back, despite anything everything that's happened to me. And like I said, I've gotten pretty lucky in a lot of situations where I haven't had to deal with a lot of that stuff. I would absolutely, it's my favorite place. I would absolutely go back to Latin America, drop of a pin or drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drop of a hat pin.
A hat pin, yeah.
And van life is pretty sweet in Latin America.
It's different. It's funny though, because like that was my first van life. That was my introduction to van life. First time I lived in a van was in Latin America.
Yeah, right.
And so being back here now is really funny because it's like plush, like camping everywhere,
Yeah.
Like I don't have to worry about it. Like, sure, like if I'm camping in the middle of LA, then yeah, I might feel a little sketched out some places, like without a doubt, like you were saying, but it's really easy. I mean, it's just so set up for camping here, especially on the West Coast, that it's easy. It's so easy, and I like that. That's something I really missed while in Latin America. But there's also just a whole different culture of van life here that is really fun to be a part of. That I really missed in Latin America because it was just different. It was really cool. When you hang around Latin America, you see a lot of German people who are older traveling around in their like really nice set up vans, or you see Argentinians traveling around in their like super broke down vans, and it's just. And it's cool to like, be a part of both those things. But then it's also cool to come back here and just like be part of the van community of the United States, because there's a very, very, very strong and prevalent van community in the United States, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are watching and listening right now. The way we first became aware of you is by following your photography. You are a filmmaker, and you do share some inspiring stuff. So, how can people follow you? Tell us what it is you'll be doing. And
sure. Right now I'm doing focusing on Instagram. Right now I'm kind of like in between. I finished Vanajeros, and then that led into a really cool chapter of work with Subaru and Backpacker, and that was really sweet. But after 2 years of really focusing on a directive, whether it being Vanajeros or Backpacker, I really wanted an opportunity to just like take a breath, and this summer has been that opportunity to do that. But now I'm starting to feel a little antsy, and so I'm going to start getting into my next project. But Instagram is probably the best way to continue following the day-to-day stuff.
What kind of stuff can we expect to see on the feed?
Well, the next few steps, the next project, I think will be something along the lines of cruising over to Europe to trace back the lineage of owners of this van and kind of explore who this van was to those people and what it meant to them. I mean, this van means a lot to me in the short time that I've owned it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about, this van's 30 years old, where has it been in 30 years? Who's owned it? And what are those people like? What types of adventures did they have in this car?
Such a good idea.
So we'll be able to follow this process on Instagram and like...
Yeah, Aidan Klimenko, just my personal Instagram. That's what I'll be posting to for the next few months as I prepare for this. And then as I get the ball rolling with it, I'm in the early stages right now, but as I get the ball rolling with it, then I'll let everybody know where.
Yeah, I'm looking
where
forward
and
to
what
seeing
it'll
it.
be, and I'm really excited about it too. I'm excited to have another something to work towards. And
yeah, it's a great project,
thing
and like you're a really talented storyteller. So I know like you're going to find an awesome story in this.
Yeah, thank you.
It's going to be interesting watching those travels over to Europe.
I'll find you guys over there.
Yeah, we're hoping we're going to have a little meet up in Europe.
That'd be cool.
The timing might just work out, and if we're in the same part of the world, we'll get together as we always do.
That'd be sweet.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
A lot of useful information.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found it interesting, educational, and slightly inspirational too.
Yeah, guys, if you've got any tips and stories, please share it with everyone, because we are all trying to learn together. That's what it's all about in this little community. And if you've got any topics that you'd like for us to discuss or find out about, we will find an adventure expert that can share their stories and wisdom with you.
All of that happens in the comments section, so please engage with us. That is why we are sharing this with the community. Also, if you would like to check out another Adventure Experts video, click one of those boxes that's somewhere around here. Or if you want to check out our travel series, that will be on our channel, Kombi Life. Thanks again for watching, guys, and until next time, happy travels.